All right, so today we're going deep on some ancient Chinese military strategy.
Oh, well.
You know, Sun Tzu, Art of War, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And a lot of people think of Sun Tzu as all about deception and being sneaky and tricky.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because there's
Right.
a lot of misconception about Sun Tzu's Art of War.
Okay.
A lot of people think it's about trickery and winning with oddness,
Right, yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at.
but that's not quite accurate.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So, what is the real deal with this winning with oddness idea? What's going on?
Yeah, so the original Chinese phrase is
Okay.
靠手, and this is often mistranslated.
Okay.
The correct translation is not to win with righteousness and to win with oddness, but rather to win with righteousness and to win with accumulation.
Hmm.
So that word accumulation there really changes things.
Okay, so instead of being all about surprise attacks and trickery, it's about like accumulation. What does that mean in like the context of war?
Yeah, so accumulation is represented by the Chinese character J,
Oh.
and it refers to reserve troops.
Okay.
And this is a concept that has been central to military strategy for centuries.
Makes sense.
Even Western military thinkers like Clausewitz highlighted its importance.
Yeah. So it's like having a secret weapon, a hidden strength.
Yeah,
You can deploy at just the right moment.
exactly. It's about having a backup plan, a reserve force that can turn the tide of a battle
Mhm.
at just the right time.
At a crucial moment, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's not about being outnumbered and relying on luck to pull off some crazy upset.
Right.
It's about strategic planning.
yes.
And having those extra resources just in case.
Exactly.
Like going into a negotiation with a counteroffer in your back pocket.
That's a good way to put it.
All right.
Yeah. Sun Tzu called these two forces Zheng and JiQi,
Okay.
the main force and the reserve force.
Mm.
So imagine two armies clashing. The Zheng is engaged in the main fight, while the Ji waits for the opportune moment to strike, ensuring victory.
Wow. Okay. So how does this actually play out on the battlefield? Can you give us an example? Like, how did this actually work?
Yeah, a great historical example is the Battle of Jing,
Okay.
where Han Xin, this brilliant general, used this principle to defeat a much larger
Interesting.
Zhao army.
Ah, the classic underdog story. So how did he use this G strategy to pull off the win? What happened?
Well, so Han Xin knew he couldn't win through sheer force alone.
Great.
He had to be strategic.
Yeah.
First, he sent out a small detachment of 2,000 soldiers
Okay.
under cover of night, and their mission was to ambush the enemy
Gotcha.
later in the battle.
Yeah.
Then, at daybreak, he positioned 10,000 of his troops by a river
Okay.
in what's called the backwater formation.
Wait, backwater formation. What is that?
Essentially, he positioned his troops with their backs to the river,
Mhm.
making them appear trapped and vulnerable.
Mm.
This is a deliberate tactic to lure the enemy in.
Interesting. So he was using his main force, his Zheng, as bait.
Yeah.
That seems incredibly risky.
It was, but it was a calculated risk.
Okay.
The Zhao army saw this seemingly vulnerable force
Right.
and thought they had an easy victory in hand.
Yeah, I can only imagine how confident they must have felt at that moment. Yeah. It's like, okay, this is in the bag.
Exactly, and that's precisely what Han Xin was counting on.
Oh, wow.
As the Zhao army pressed their attack, he began a strategic retreat with his main force,
Okay.
further fueling the enemy's confidence.
So they're really thinking they have this won now.
Yeah, they thought Han Xin was on the run,
Mhm.
and they eagerly pursued, leaving their camp vulnerable.
And this is where those hidden 2,000 soldiers come into play.
Exactly. As the main armies were clashing, those 2,000 soldiers who had been lying in wait
Right.
swooped in and captured the enemy camp.
Wow.
Imagine the shock and the demoralization.
Talk about a psychological blow.
Right. Not only are they facing a strong force head on,
Yeah.
but now they've lost their base camp as well.
Totally. Yeah.
Precisely. And that was just the beginning.
Oh, no.
As the Zhao army reeled from this surprise attack, Han Xin's main force launched a fierce counterattack,
Mhm.
hitting them from the front while their morale was shattered.
Wow.
It was a decisive victory for Han Xin, achieved through the brilliant use of his Ji, his strategic reserves.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
So he essentially used the enemy's overconfidence against them.
Yeah.
What a tactic.
exactly. Han Xin understood that victory wasn't just about strength,
Right.
but about timing,
Mhm.
positioning,
Mhm.
and using your resources wisely.
Yeah.
This victory is a classic example of how the Zhang and Ji
Mhm.
can kind of fluidly switch roles
Oh,
as needed.
it's almost like a dance between these two forces.
Yeah.
Each one kind of supporting the other at different points
That's a great analogy.
in the battle.
It highlights how adaptable this strategy can be. It's not about rigidly sticking to one plan,
Right.
but about having the flexibility to adjust to the circumstances.
This is all incredibly fascinating. But I have to admit, as much as I love a good war story, I'm wondering how all this ancient military strategy, translates to the challenges we face in modern life.
Sure.
After all, I'm not exactly planning any battlefield campaigns anytime soon.
That's a great point. While the battlefield might seem far removed from our everyday lives, the principles behind Zhang and Ji are surprisingly relevant
Okay.
in a lot of modern contexts.
Interesting.
Think of it this way. This concept of having reserves,
Yeah.
A backup plan, a G, isn't limited to war.
Mm-hmm.
It can be applied to any challenging situation.
So you're saying that having a G is about more than just physical resources. It could be about having reserves of time,
Exactly.
energy, even emotional support.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that life is full of unexpected twists and turns.
Yeah.
And having that extra layer of resilience
Mm-hmm.
can make all the difference.
Okay, that makes sense.
Let's say you're facing a tight deadline at work.
Okay.
Having some extra time set aside, your G
Right.
could allow you to handle those unexpected problems or delays
Mm-hmm.
without derailing the entire project.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like having a buffer zone.
Right?
So you're not constantly operating at your maximum capacity.
Yeah.
What about in other areas of life? How can this G concept apply to, say, finances or even relationships?
Well, in terms of finances,
Okay.
having a financial cushion
Okay.
can be your G.
Right.
It allows you to weather unexpected storms,
Mm-hmm.
like a job loss
Right.
or medical emergencies,
Yeah.
without being completely thrown off course.
Yeah.
It provides a sense of security
Your time.
and peace of mind.
So it's about being prepared, not just hoping for the best.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Precisely. And in relationships,
Yeah.
your G might be your support network,
Okay.
your friends, your family, or even a therapist.
Right. These are the people you can turn to
Yeah.
for guidance and support when things get tough. Makes sense. They can help you process difficult emotions, offer different perspectives, and remind you of your strengths.
That's a really interesting way to think about it. It's like having a reserve of emotional strength
Yeah.
that you can tap into when you need it most.
Yeah,
And I imagine this concept of G could also be applied to personal goals and aspirations, right?
absolutely.
Hmm.
Think about it. If you're working towards a big goal,
Okay.
having a backup plan,
Mm-hmm.
a plan B, can be incredibly valuable.
Right.
It can help you stay motivated even when things don't go according to plan.
Right.
And it can prevent you from feeling completely defeated
Mm-hmm.
if you encounter setbacks along the way.
This is all starting to make a lot of sense. It's not about being pessimistic or expecting things to go wrong.
Right.
It's about being realistic and recognizing that life is full of uncertainties.
Yeah.
And having those reserves, whether they're financial, emotional, or even just a mental backup plan.
It can help us navigate those uncertainties with more confidence and
Yeah.
resilience.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a mindset of preparedness
Mhm.
and adaptability,
Mm.
rather than relying solely on luck or hoping for the best.
Right.
It's interesting to note that there's a common saying.
Okay.
Keep to the righteous path, but win with the odd chin.
Okay.
This phrase is often mistakenly attributed to Sun Tzu
Mhm.
and used to justify using unconventional or even deceptive tactics.
So this is where that whole winning with oddness misconception comes from.
Right.
But you're saying that this phrase isn't actually from Sun Tzu.
That's right. This saying can be misleading as it suggests that achieving success
Huh.
requires abandoning principles or resorting to trickery.
Gotcha.
True mastery, according to Sun Tzu, lies in consistently applying sound principles
Mhm.
and having the flexibility to adapt
Yeah.
to changing circumstances.
So it's not about being sneaky or manipulative. It's
Right.
about having a strong foundation, a clear sense of your goals, and a strategic plan
Exactly.
for achieving them.
Yeah.
And a key part of that strategic plan is having your reserves,
Yeah.
your J, ready to deploy when needed.
Precisely. It's about strategic thinking, adaptability,
Right.
and always having that backup plan in place.
So it's about winning with wisdom, not with, brute force or trickery.
Exactly. Sun Tzu's Art of War is about it's about mental preparedness just as much as it is about physical resources.
Right. It's about having that long-term vision and understanding that strength comes from being prepared for anything.
Yeah, it's about cultivating that strategic mindset,
Mm-hmm.
thinking ahead,
Mhm.
anticipating challenges, and always having that backup plan.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive, I have to say.
Yeah.
We started with this ancient text about military strategy, and we ended up with some really practical advice
Right.
that we can use in our everyday lives.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is
It's amazing how these principles, they transcend time and context.
how these ideas resonate even centuries later.
Yeah.
It speaks of the enduring power of strategic thinking.
We've talked a lot about having these reserves, this G,
Yeah.
in different areas of our lives. But what are some concrete ways that our listeners can actually build those reserves? What are some practical steps they can take?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It really depends on the specific area of life we're talking about.
Sure.
In terms of finances, for example.
Okay.
Building a G could mean setting aside a certain percentage of your income each month
Okay.
for an emergency fund.
Right.
It could also mean diversifying your investments to spread the risk.
So it's not just about saving money, but about being smart with how you manage your money overall.
Exactly.
What about in terms of personal development or career goals? How can we build reserves in those areas?
In those areas, your G might be investing in your skills and your knowledge.
Okay.
It could mean taking courses, attending workshops, or reading books to stay ahead of the curve in your field. It could also mean building a strong network of mentors and colleagues
Mhm.
who can offer support and guidance.
It's like having that reserve of knowledge and expertise you can draw on
Yeah.
when you need it the most.
Yeah.
And what about in terms of relationships? What does building G look like in that context?
In relationships, it's about investing time and energy in nurturing those connections.
Right.
It could be as simple as making an effort to stay in touch with loved ones,
Yeah.
scheduling regular quality time together, or simply being present and attentive
Hmm.
when you are with them.
So it's about proactively building those strong bonds and having that emotional support system in place.
Exactly.
It sounds like building G is really about cultivating this sense of preparedness and resilience in all aspects of our lives.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that life is unpredictable,
Hmm.
and having that extra layer of security can help us navigate those ups and downs with more grace and confidence.
This deep dive has really given me a whole new perspective on how to approach challenges and achieve my goals. I'm starting to see my to-do list less as a source of stress and more as an opportunity to build my J, to create that buffer zone that will help me thrive in the long run.
This is a shift in mindset.
Yeah.
It's about viewing challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities to build strength and resilience.
Well, I think we've given our listener a lot to think about today.
Yeah.
We've unpacked this ancient Chinese military strategy and discovered how it can be applied to everything from our finances to our relationships to our personal goals.
Absolutely.
It's all about building those strategic reserves, that G, to help us navigate the complexities of life with more confidence and wisdom.
It's been a fascinating discussion. It's always exciting to explore how these timeless principles can still offer valuable insights for us today.
So to our listener out there, in what areas of your life could you benefit from building strategic reserves? What are your Zheng and your Ji for achieving your goals? How can you apply this concept of accumulation to create a more resilient and successful future? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Head over to our social media channels and share your insights, and let's keep this conversation going.